In episode 1, The Matrix, we discussed using an unyielding framework of alternating strokes to add consistency and drive to our strumming patterns. While this matrix strumming does indeed add structure and consistency to our playing, it can sound a bit one-dimensional and uninspiring. Now, this doesn't mean we want to unlearn the matrix in an effort to sound more interesting. It just means we need to add some elements to it which allow us to, reinvigorate our strumming patterns. So, let's take a look at adding accents and applying additive rhythms to the matrix. So the first thing we should address is the matrix itself. And remember, the matrix is a stream of alternating up and down strokes, with downstrokes on the numbered counts and upstrokes on the ands, which occur between each count. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now, it's important to keep in mind that no matter what else happens, do not break this pattern. Stroke order is really, really important. Piggy swear? Okay. Now, let's add some nuance and interest to our basic strumming pattern by introducing some accented strokes. Well, what's an accent? Well, simply, it adds stress to a given beat or beats. So to accent a stroke, all you have to do is hit the strings harder. Now, don't beat the snot out of them or anything. Just give them a little extra flick. It's in the wrist, kind of like throwing a yo-yo. And that's really all it takes. By the way, we call this type of accent a dynamic accent because we're making the stroke louder. So which strokes do we accent? Well, any stroke is fair game, but let's start by borrowing an idea from set drummers. If we accent counts 2 and 4, we're now playing what's known as a backbeat. And this is what drummers play on their snare drums in rock music, or what jazz drummers play with their left foot on the hi-hat. It's what gives rock, jazz, soul, R&B its groove and its swagger. And notice how playing a backbeat makes the strumming pattern pop a little bit. It adds some drive to it. So what else can we do? So how about this? Let's ghost the upstroke of count 1, but hit every other stroke. So you might be asking, what do you mean by ghost the upstroke? Well, a ghost stroke is simply a missed stroke. It means we physically execute the upstroke, but we don't use it. In other words, let the pick miss the strings. So when notating a ghost stroke, use either a light or a broken lined caret. And of course the other option would be to not add a stroke indication at all, and just assume that no indication means to ghost the stroke regardless. By ghosting the and of 1, we're actually changing the stroke on count 1 into a note of longer duration, a quarter note. Now, this produces a different type of accent. It's what we call an agogic accent, and it provides stress through note duration. And here's what this example looks and sounds like. So, is there anything else we can do? Well, sure. How about this? Let's return to the backbeat. We'll keep the accent on count 4, but we'll shift the accent on count 2 to the and. Now, this can be hard, so don't freak out. Simply count the accent pattern and don't be afraid to take it slowly. Remember, the second accent occurs on a downstroke. This can be disorienting, but with a little bit of work, you'll have it in no time. Just remember the pattern is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Got it? So, do you have it worked out yet? This is similar to what I've always called the master pattern. And I'm not alone because I've seen a lot of other guitar channels on YouTube using the same term. Now, if you can execute this pattern, you should be on your way to managing any strumming pattern. Okay, so I've taught this master pattern to hundreds of guitarists over the past 32 years, and just playing the odds, I'd wager that plenty of you are struggling with counting this. So just slow it down and count out loud. It'll come, I promise. You just have to be patient and work it out. And I know that counting those ands with accents can be a little tough. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Just, again, be patient, work it out, it will come. But wait, there is another way. Okay, big can of worms here. So far we've discussed strumming a scrupulous count of constant eighth notes within a prescribed number of beats, let's say 4 counts per measure. Now that gives us 8 alternating strokes. In other words, it's the matrix. Now, in the West, we deal with rhythms by breaking larger notes into smaller component subdivisions inside of that prescribed repeating framework of beats. Again, this is the matrix. Now, in the Near East, Eastern Europe, Northern Africa, and Turkey, musicians tend to use what are known as additive rhythms. So, in a nutshell, with additive rhythms, we combine groups of 2 and or 3 beats to form larger, more complex groupings. If we apply this idea to an 8-stroke group, which yet again, you guessed it, that's the matrix, this gives us 4 possible beat group combinations. A 2 plus 2 plus 2, a 3 plus 3 plus 2, a 3 plus 2 plus 3, and a 2 plus 3 plus 3. Okay, but what does that have to do with strumming? Well, everything. Now, before we jump in, let's set a couple of ground rules. 1, count 1 of each group always gets the accent no matter which direction the stroke is moving. And count 1 will always be indicated in red. 2, remember what I said earlier about stroke order? This is where our pinky swear comes into play. Don't stop alternating your strokes, no matter what. And 3, count this out loud. It helps, I promise. Take a look at this. If we look at example number 1, that's the matrix. If we play it as it is with no special accents, it's what we would call a 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 additive rhythmic grouping. And it's counted 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, makes sense? It should, because all the downstrokes are accented. Now, downstrokes are naturally heavier than upstrokes, so this is a natural phenomenon. So, if we superimpose 3 plus 3 plus 2 over the matrix, we get this accent pattern. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And notice that this produces dynamic accents on the downbeats 1 and 4, but also gives us a dynamic accent on the and of 2, an upstroke. Now, this can be difficult to count in terms of accenting upstrokes and downstrokes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But some might find it easier to count an alternating sequence of 3s and 2s. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So as long as you say 1 louder than the other numbers, you'll play the stroke on 1 louder. And again, remember, this is what we call a dynamic accent, and this is the secret weapon. So what about the other patterns? Well, here's a 3 plus 2 plus 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then here is the 2 plus 3 plus 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Make sense? Again, take it slowly, count the ones louder, always obey your stroke order, and you're good to go. Each of these strumming patterns produces a different groove, and chances are good that you can think of some songs which use each example, just off the top of your head. Now, here's a couple of bonus ideas to consider. You can string any of these patterns in sequence to produce longer, more rhythmically varied patterns. In fact, here's a 3, 3, 2 plus 3, 2, 3. Idea number 2, you can play one pattern while your buddy plays another pattern and thereby superimposing the accents of each pattern over the other. Or you can do this, record yourself playing a chord sequence with one strumming pattern, then overdub the same chord progression with another strumming pattern. Then pan one guitar left, the other guitar right, and enjoy the 3D interplay of the differing accents in stereo. Number 3, try ghosting the stroke immediately following the stroke which occurs on the accented one of an additive grouping. Now this will produce a secondary layer of syncopated agogic accents. Really awesome. Number 4, apply some of these rhythmic groupings not to your strumming, but to your scalar playing. The resulting nested accents can shake up the phrasing and direction of your solo lines. Now, there are some other ideas we can consider for spiking our strumming patterns, which include foundational bass notes, moving bass lines, suspensions, and also left-hand choking or right-hand muting. But we'll leave that for another video because this can be an awful lot to take in at once. Now remember, please like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying the channel's content, and feel free to leave comments or any suggestions for any topics that you might like to see in future videos. My name's David Holland, and thanks for watching String 'em Up. Have fun, stay safe, and have a happy and safe St. Patrick's Day. See you next time. Bye.